We are live. Welcome, thrice welcome to JWC Livestream. This is JWC Livestream Story Autopsy with Ricky and Tom, and special guest Amber Danson, guest author. I'm Ricky. Tom, are you there?
I'm here.
Great, welcome. And Amber, welcome. How is everyone today?
Excellent. I'm here.
Pretty good. Getting some creativity things done today.
No, I'm glad to hear that. I was just going to ask how everyone's creative life has been. So much wish and wash in the world. We got to get down with our creativity. It's the only way we're going to survive these tumultuous days. I have been it's been like a chain lightning of muse flashes lately. Ideas. I outlined the whole book last night. Couldn't go to bed until I outlined it. Was one of those things. A novella. Or I don't know, maybe a novel. We'll see how it goes. But and today, bright news flash for Afternoty, actually, like the sequel to the sequel of the Book of Masroth series. Blew my mind away, man, how it came together. There's just something about that networking from unconsciousness to consciousness. I can't believe it. You know, I have literally like a bunch of novels that just got way better because of one thing that occurred to me today. It's just fantastic. How have you guys been creatively? Amber, how about you? We'll start with you. You said you were creative today. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I got about a 500 word start on a unicorn short story for my collection.
Oh, that's awesome. You doing a unicorn story would be great. What's the gist of it, or do you want to keep it a surprise until it's more firmly baked?
Well, what it is I'm taking the legend of the unicorn, it'll only come to a virgin. Well, they don't say what gender.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know that they specify that. You're right.
So they don't necessarily say what gender. So I have a 15-year-old virgin heading out into the forest trying to find the unicorn so she'll heal his family. Cool.
That turns the myth on its head there. That's pretty good. That's a twisteroo. I don't know anybody's ever addressed that yet. That's awesome. And you threw down 500 words on it. How long you think it's going to be?
4,000 or 5,000.
Cool. A short, but nice. You could do a lot of good stuff in that word budget, man. You know, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. That's awesome. I've been writing Chiron 6. I threw down like 1,000 words on that the other day. It's been great getting back to chapters and just relentless outlining. Tom, how's your creativity been?
Really good. I did since last we met, another 8 or 9 pages of the Bride of Frankenstein story.
Nice.
I have to do more research into what the state of medicine was like in the year 1800, if there was even such a thing as medicine.
It was
right?
dreadful.
Really
it was dreadful. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And they still believe that you had to bleed in order to heal.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
If you had an infection, they would cut your arm off. You know, that kind of thing. It's like so.
Yeah.
It's So I also 2 mornings ago, I woke up with a whole new concept, which I'm going to read later on.
Whoa, there's a treat.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you had a dream, a muse dream.
I like those because last time I had one of those, I got Emily. So
they're fantastic, and there's some sort of magic in the air lately. My dreams have been really heavy duty, but my unconsciousness has just been like waves on a sea. I keep getting these amazing notions.
See, With me, it's different. There's the dreams that result in stories, and then there's the really bizarre ones. I had
Yeah.
a dream last week that I was sitting in a parking garage restaurant. You can picture the whole
Oh.
thing. And we're sitting, and there's cars weaving through between all the tables, and I saw this Nintendo 64 controller on the table in front of me. It was like bright orange, so I picked it up and I pushed the X button, and a few tables over, somebody took out a gun and just shot it into the ceiling. I said, "That's interesting." And I pushed it again. Boom, boom, boom. He did it again. I said, "That's pretty cool." So
That's awesome.
I tried another button on the other side, like the L1, and over on my right side, some guy's smoke started pouring out of this guy's hair. And so that dream would not probably amount to much of anything,
Well,
So-
I gotta tell you, I love those, and I love to hear how you guys are both writing and I'm writing. It's just it's great. I had a little stall because I was doing all these blurbs and writing all these things, and I still have more of those to do. But I'm just happy. I've been writing chapters lately. There's nothing more fulfilling for me, you know.
An interesting exercise that I thought of that somebody suggested is your back of the book blurb is don't just write it and then play with it. He suggested writing 20 different versions of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Completely different points of view, surreal questions, lists, and I've been doing that with Emily, and you just get a better book blurb out of it eventually because you'll learn that's what's terrible, what's not bad, what's
Absolutely.
What's
the more of them you do, the better at it. The better at it you get, at least
general,
in theory.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're just learning from your own mistakes, besides research, I have 3 more of those things I got to write for the new Malathoria novels. So yeah, that 20 of them thing is a real interesting challenge, and it's
book.
like, yeah, and I have enough projects where I could theoretically do that. Not all of them are, and I really should, because I have a bunch of Cyberdonia books that I have to do it for. Tom, I think you've got something there. I think you've inspired me. I'm gonna have to do that. That just means another diversion from chapters, but it'll be a very useful exercise, and I got to get good at that somehow.
Yeah, it's a really good challenge. It's even more of a challenge than writing flash fiction.
Yep.
Or a
Absolutely.
synopsis.
Yeah.
Book blurbs are, let's see, one of the 2 or 3 most important things you can write beside your cover, and maybe a little, and the back of the book. Those are like 90% of your sales would be from those 2 things.
It's huge. It's huge, and we all like to think in the magical utopia that you don't judge a book by its cover, but we know better. You actually do that when you go to a bookstore. The cover grabs you, and then it makes you turn it around and go, "Ooh, what's this?" And then the blurb could make the sale. Don't tell me it can't, because anytime you've ever been to a bookstore, that's how it is. If you're not there laser guided looking for something that you already know you're going to buy, then
especially paperbacks, because the hardcovers have the flaps on the inside that usually those are tough too. But a paperback cover, the blurb, that's all you've got to get somebody to put it in their bag or a basket or whatever. They usually don't go past the cover and the blurb if they've decided they want it. They don't start looking inside. Usually, I would think.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
No, yeah, dig it. I mean, everybody's got their own shopping process for perusing. When the joys of just wandering through the aisles of a bookstore in the old days and knowing you have a budget and you could just buy. Oh, what's this? I have no idea. I love the idea of that kind of discovery. I miss it in a way. Well, we are unpacked as far as creativity, and I, for one, feel a sense of gratitude that the muse is flowing. and that we're all being productive. Now we come to our next segment, which of course is our reads. It wouldn't be story autopsy at this point without some reads, so you could then unpack them. Amber, let's start with you. Do you have anything to read for this live stream?
Yes, I have the opening scene of The Shattered Sky, which is my dinosaur apocalypse novel.
Fantastic. Well, it would be really cool if you could read that.
Just sharing.
Let's see.
Darkness smothered the forest, muffling what few noises marked the night. Stillness settled over the land. All the jungle creatures responded to the oppressive silence of an overcast sky. Even those on alert for danger settled close to the ground, waiting. A nest of small, feathered creatures snuggled together in a hollow, half concealed by the overhanging root system of a massive redwood. While most of the pack slept, two were on guard against any nocturnal predators. When thunder rumbled, the sentries pressed themselves against the cool earth. Several dromaeosaurs stirred in the nest, or one raising a sickle claw to scratch under a chin before settling again. The pack was at peace. An unholy shriek rang out. It was a sound of mortal terror, and the sentries bolted instinctively. The rest of the pack, roused from uneasy slumber by one of their packmates crying out in fear, jumped to their feet. Hissing at the darkness, they bristled their feathers at imaginary danger, bewildered. Another scream came before Dreams of Fire, eldest of last season's chicks, shoved her way through the throng and tore off into the thundery night. The pack leaders called after her, but she was insensible. She ran blindly until a low-hanging branch caught her across the snout, putting an abrupt end to her headlong flight. Panting, she snorted blood from her nostrils and shook her head to clear away the nightmare. Now feeling sheepish, she crept back to the nesting grounds. Her leaders would want an explanation. She stood at the edge of the little clearing, screened by ferns. Her shame only grew when she caught sight of Hurricane and Cooling Breeze, struggling to restore order. A quick glance showed her that many pack members were missing, doubtless somewhere in the forest, frightened into a flight response by her screaming. Heaving a sigh, she left her cover and returned to the nesting grounds. Head swiveled in her direction. Reproachful eyes watched her progress. Dreams of Fire refused to meet anyone's gaze, except the baleful glower of the mated leaders, Hurricane and Cooling Breeze. Hurricane had familial feelings for Dreams of Fire. She was his nestmate's first hatched, but blood ties could only tolerate so much. "What was that about?" Hurricane asked, crest feathers raised in reprimand. "Nothing." Dreams of Fire turned her head away. "Just a bad dream." "I think it's a bit more than that," Cooling Breeze said reproachfully. "This is the third night in a row you've screamed loudly enough to scare the whole pack. What is going on?" Howling Wind sidled up to her elder nestmate, pressing her flank against Dreams of Fire's. "You'd better tell them." The set of Dreams of Fire's feathers expressed uncertainty. "It might be nothing." Howling Wind butted her head against Dreams of Fire's side. "If you won't say something, I will." "What is it?" Hurricane demanded. "I keep dreaming a big fire is going to fall out of the sky and destroy the world as we know it." Dreams of Fire huffed and braced herself, clearly expecting the reaction she received. Hoots of amusement broke out all around her, followed by a babble of scoffing voices. How could a fire be big enough to destroy the world? We all have bad dreams. That doesn't mean we need to scare everyone else. It means nothing. You're just remembering the fire from a few seasons ago when you sleep. "Settle down," Hurricane said with a flick of his tail. Turning to Dreams of Fire, he said, "You've dreamed about fire since you were a chick. Why is it now so bad that you're screaming yourself awake?" "The fire is getting closer." Cooling Breeze fluffed her neck feathers. "What do you mean? Fire burns, but it doesn't hunt." "This fire hunts, and it is hungry enough to devour everything it touches. It is going to fall out of the sky and burn most of the world." More hooting. "Nothing can be so big," Hurricane scoffed. Cooling Breeze tipped her head back, peering at what little of the horizon could be seen through the trees. Rain soon. Hurricane? Before sunset, I'd say. Of course, that's a whole day away, he added with a caustic glance at Dreams of Fire. I can't even smell the coming dawn yet. She ducked her head. Sorry, but I can't help it. The dreams are getting more and more real. I don't know. I just feel the need to run. Run, then. Cooling breeze fluffed her feathers as if the solution were a simple one. It never helps to simply run. I want to go north and maybe a little west, and I want to run as far and as fast as I can. The leaders exchanged a glance. Howling Wind took a step forward. Dreams of Fire has my support. I have listened to her speak of her dreams since I hatched, and her words fill me with dread. Do you not feel it? Cooling Breeze scoffed, and Hurricane merely fluffed his feathers. With a desperate glance at the dromaeosaurs all around her, Dreams of Fire realized she had no support within the pack, except for Howling Wind. Even their parents looked away when Dreams of Fire and Howling Wind turned their pleading gazes in that direction. We will hear no more of this, Cooling Breeze said, peeling her lips back from her teeth to emphasize her resolve. You have disturbed the pack enough already with your outbursts. One more and we'll send you to sleep in the forest alone when night falls. Dreams of Fire hissed her displeasure. Hurricane nipped her, silently asserting dominance and backing his mate. Ducking her head between her shoulders, Dreams of Fire turned and slunk to the edge of the nesting grounds with Howling Wind close behind her. Should we try to get more sleep? Howling Wind asked, scratching a crude hollow in the leaf mold. She lowered herself into her new bed and gave Dreams of Fire an expectant look. You go ahead. I will watch for danger. If I sleep again, the dreams will come again, and I don't think Cooling Breeze will tolerate my strangeness if it disturbs her sleep twice in one night. Rattling her feathers to express this pleasure, Howling Wind laid her head on her knee and dozed. Dreams of Fire paced in a slow circle around her sister, alert for any nighttime predators. Chirostenotes, larger than a dromaeosaurus, would sometimes try its luck against a youngster like Howling Wind. Dawn arrived fast. The pack regrouped, hunted, fed. Dreams of Fire beheld it all in a haze. Fire haunted her, causing her to send a fear-filled glance at the sky every now and then, though there was nothing to be seen. I think that's about good for now. That's 7 pages.
Man, oh man. Yeah, I mean, like, totally. That is just fantastic. Because of all these intrigues that you're juggling at the same time. The dreams of dinosaurs, right? Just the concept of what is that mystery. Like, every one of us has likely seen a puppy when a puppy sleeps, that the puppy's like running and making little woofs while it's sleeping. And you just, that mystery. What instinctual field is that animal running through in that dream? What's the resolution? Like, what is it seeing? You know, like, it's so intriguing. And you dance that in. Yours is a prophetic or almost like a prescient dream. Yes. And then there's the splash and the ripple in the tribe, in the pack, or however you want to put it, because they're intelligent. I almost want to say tribe, and they're all like, I'm nervous, or you're full of it, or it's like there's all these. It's a pinball of interactions and stuff, and that line that you have in there, this fire hunts.
Yeah,
very, very sharp and memorable. Can't get that out of my head. That's turning a phrase is good poesy. That's voice fulfillment to the nines. Tom, what did you just think of that? That was great. What we're in it?
It's very, very good. It brings me back to Richard Adams writes very well like that. The Watership Down, and
yeah,
wrote,
dig it.
The Plague Dogs is really good, and he wrote a really interesting one called Shardik, about a mythical giant bear in this peninsula in Russia that possibly might be real, but this is about a tribe that lives there that's sort of like a god bear, and
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
interesting stuff, and so this had some really good resonance of that, and you know, who doesn't like a good dinosaur story?
I didn't know I liked dinosaur stories so much as I do. I mean, Amber makes them very palatable. I would never have guessed that that would be something I would dig, but now I'm gonna have to get that book. All right, folks, The Shattered Sky. When is it coming out? Amber Danson, author of The Shattered
December
Sky.
1st.
December 1st. Well, that's gonna
Mm.
make a delicious Christmas present for
Yeah,
anybody that likes a good read. You know.
I'm just waiting on my illustrator to get done with the drawings.
Ooh.
I mention a
Oh.
lot of different species in the book, so I need drawings.
Oh, so you're getting illustrations. That's even tastier. That's nice. That'll help because there's different demographics. Like some kids dig dinosaurs big, and who doesn't like the Land Before Time, like Shaped Us All. Like there's no one that didn't dig that movie, watch that movie, and take something away from it. That's great, man. So December 1st, Shattered Sky, Amber Danson. Let's make sure that we give that one a cha-ching. Um, you hear how tasty that was. I could hear you read that. Like I could hear you read that for a couple chapters. But alas, it's time to move on. Segments and all that. Tom, thank you again for reading, Amber. That was
Yes,
really
thank you. It
good.
was very good.
Tom, how about you, man? Do you have anything to share?
I do. I have a dilemma. I could possibly fit in both. I could finish off Prince of the Air. It's about 3 pages, and then I have my new concept, which is maybe a page and a half.
Well, I think we have to. I think we have to put that Shirella story to bed. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
just going to be an agony of continuity for our viewers.
sure. Wondering
As
what's
much
going
as
on.
I mean, Sherelle is awesome, so no harm there. But we'll see. Maybe there'll be time for this concept.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
very eager to
by the
share it.
end of the show. Yeah. Oh yeah, dig it. So we'll see what we can do. Why don't you go ahead though and finish Sherilla?
Alrighty, where is she? Oh, there it is. Prince of the Air. Alright, we last left her. They were approaching a large stone circle after some trials and valleys and all right. She has the prince. She's whipped the prince into shape. He's lost weight. He's gotten more polite, and he when he passes into this latest circle, he undergoes a metamorphosis. Uh, of sorts. So let's see what we have here. All right. This is the largest stone circle I've ever seen. She said, "It's bigger than our courtyard." Oto said, "It looks as if it's been constructed. There's no wear on any of the stones, even from the wind." Erdo nodded. "Nothing looks out of place, like no one has ever been here before. Lots of magic is in place here. I can feel it." "How so?" "I am a half stone elf. I can pick up magic as easy as I breathe. It's very strong here." "I didn't know that," said the prince. He turned his head and listened. "Can you hear any animals?" Shirella listened. The background noises had ceased. "It's deathly quiet." "An odd choice of words," said Erto, "but accurate." They rode through the first outer ring, not making any noise themselves. Up close, the stones were polished smooth. The slight wind died as they passed into the circle. No birds, no animals, no wind. "Be careful," she said. They went through the second and third circle into the center. Shirella's eyes went wide. "I could fit my childhood home in this opening with room for a barn," she said. Erto was impressed. "What do we do now?" Her hair stood on end as the very air began to shimmer. Vibrations from the ground ran up through the horses and coursed through their bodies. Sparks began to dance along the tops of the lintels. They converged between stones and produced bolts of electricity shooting into the air. These bolts sat in the air like pillars of fire, dancing to their own song. In the very center of the circle, a column of electrical fire rose from the ground. It crackled and popped as it grew thick and dark. As Shirella and Urto watched, the column popped in a silent explosion. The light made them close their eyes. When Shirella opened her eyes, she saw a tall figure, dressed in a black hooded cowl. "Welcome, Prince Urto," said the man in black, as he put his hood back. He looked at her, and Shirella. He neither smiled nor blinked. Urto could no longer afraid of his own shadow, looked down at the figure. "Are you from the school?" "I have come from there directly." Shirella looked beyond the figure into the plains beyond the circle. She saw nothing but a vast open plain. A gentle wind moved a few thin trees. As far as she could see, there was no sign of any buildings. "You weren't here a few minutes ago," said the prince. "I am here, nevertheless," the figure said. "It is now time for you to pass the entrance challenge." The prince stiffened. "I'm ready. What do I have to do?" "The entrance will be clearly evident once you have found the key. You have until the sun sets to find it." The prince's eyebrows lifted. "What happens if I don't find it by then?" "You are welcome to return next year to attempt the challenge." Shirella slid off Gelt. "Oh, brother," she said. She walked around, looking at the stones and marveling at their construction. One stone must have weighed as much as 100 horses. She watched several birds fly overhead. As she went to turn her head, she saw something that made her smile. Then she remembered the clue that she had been given by Rogen. Urto had also gotten his horse to look around. He sat down on a stone altar and began to think. He could see no sign of any entrance. The ground was smooth and unbroken. He moved around, then, looking for a hidden entrance. He stomped the ground and looked like a prancing pony. Finally he sat back down on the altar stone in frustration. Shirella stood at the stone. "May I consult with the prince?" she asked, looking at the cloaked figure. "Yes, you may not give him the answer he seeks. That would result in grave consequences for you." She nodded. "Ooh, I understand. I wouldn't dream of doing that. He needs to get into the school on his own merits. Besides, I'm not going to the school. I could care less about the puzzle." The figure nodded. "Proceed." Shirella put her leg up on the top of the altar stone, getting her head very close to the prince's ear. "Tell me, what do you think of the Uraval that are swarming? What do you do when the Uraval are swarming?" The prince shook his head, puzzled. "Uraval are harmless. Pests. They fly without brains and get stuck in your hair." "Are they welcome when they swarm?" "They're a nuisance. Even their meat is inedible." "Okay, what do you do when they swarm too much around you?" Urto frowned at her. "Why the questions about the Uraval?" "Just answer the question." He looked at her. "Just humor your guardian for a moment." The prince shrugged. "Well, we just scare them away with a handful of pebbles." Shirella looked over at the figure in black. He nodded. She continued. "Show me." The prince opened his mouth with another question. She held up a hand. "Ask your question after you show me. Pretend I've never seen a Uraval before." "Very well." He scooped up a handful of pebbles and flung them with a sweep of his arm. Shirella frowned. "Again. Behind you." The prince shrugged. He turned and repeated his action, spraying the stones in a wide arc through the air. This time, the prince heard something different. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "I did." "What was it?" The prince turned around in a circle. Shirella turned her head and looked over at the figure. He shook his head once. "I don't know, Your Highness." The prince was unconvinced. A smile crawled across his face. "It's a trick, isn't it?" Shirella shrugged and leaned against the altar stone. "I could have you punished for this," the prince said with a sniff and a bit of mock outrage. Shirella smiled and did nothing. Urto made 2 fists and shook them. Think, he said. He hefted a few larger pebbles and threw them in random directions as he walked around the altar stone. One stone went straight up and made a dull thud. Urto looked up and smiled. "A door," he said. He looked at Shirella. "A door that looks like the sky." In his glee, the prince tossed pebbles in a determined manner. "Look! There are stairs going up." His excitement grew as the pebbles began to accumulate on a dozen steps leading toward the ground. Congratulations, Prince Erto, said the man in black. You have passed the entrance exam to our fine school. He waved his wand. The door sparked and shimmered and grew solid. Shirella felt a vibrating in her head as the stairs revealed themselves one by one. Soon the great winding staircase rose before them, ending at a door many feet above their heads. Erdo looked down to the base of the stairs and saw that it was at the altar stone. Erto ran to his horse and took his bags, hefting them as if they were empty. He ran to the altar stone, his eyes filled with excitement. He stopped and looked at Shirella. I want to thank you, Shirella, he said. For what? She asked, very surprised. You didn't tell me where the stairs or the door was, he began. You let me find it on my own. That will impress my father. He gazed up at the door. I also owe you for not giving up on me and sending me back to my father. I will never have lived it down if I had to go home and try the challenge next year. You're welcome, Your Majesty, she said. I, for one, will be glad not to have to kill any more of your father's guards. He'd like that. I'm glad that you were my guardian. I was happy to help. Ardo took a deep breath and let it out. Well, I'm off. Goodbye, and thanks again. He climbed the stairs with excited caution and went through the door. Shirella found herself alone with the dark figure. She felt awkward. The figure turned his head to look at her. He brushed his hood away, revealing a face that was neither young nor old. His eyes glazed with the same fire that ran along the stones. And what of you, Shirella? My work is done. I'm off to find something else to do or someone else to help. Have you ever thought of finding a permanent place to live? You mean settle down? Give up wandering? Perhaps that is your best destiny. Who would have a person like me? Ah, a request. I am forbidden from helping anyone unless they ask. You tricked me into asking. I won't ask for anything I don't deserve. You won't get anything you don't deserve. Shirella frowned. I mean no offense. I hate being indebted to anyone. I've been taken advantage of in such situations. No offense is meant. Consider my offer a reward for excellent services rendered. Then I can accept. Good. Listen carefully. My time is short. He closed his eyes for a moment. There is a village called Valtor in the kingdom of Arbudan in the eastern kingdoms. He opened his eyes and looked at her. They have a need that only you can fill properly. What kind of a need? I can say no more. Suffice it to say that you will be happy there and free from wants. When should I travel there? The sooner the better. Valtor's need is imminent. Take care. The dark-clad figure went up the stairs. The stairs faded away as if they were being pulled up from the bottom step. Each step disappeared as he moved up to the next one. A cool wind made Shirella shiver. She looked around. Gelt had moved up to stand by her. She looked at Lim's box. Her tiny companion was still sleeping off the genda berry poison he had eaten a few days before. I told you not to eat those berries, she said to her tiny companion as he slept. She closed the small box at the back of her saddle. Shirella smiled as she climbed up onto Gelt. The horse knew where she wanted to go and headed north. I haven't been north of Islak in years. It should be fun.
Well. Another wonderful visit to Varema and hanging out with Shirella, and what a read, man. I love the character. I love the world she's in. And just look at what you did there. I mean, we got these pebbles, this ritual, this mysterious figure. And then everything works out for him. You know, the prince who we started, we were like, yuck. We don't want this guy to have any power at all.
Yeah.
And now by the end, it's almost like being with Shirella, hanging out with Shirella for that time rubbed off on him in such a positive way. And I have no doubt that there's other facets to that, but the way that you've deconstructed that for the purposes of reinforcing her as a figure, as a character, it's really great. And Shirella's made herself a potential powerful ally. Should she ever come back to that country when the prince comes into his power, she could ask for the sun and the moon and the stars to be placed at her feet, and he'll probably think about it for a minute.
Yep. Or if he needs help, and he could go send a message to her. Could you help me gather an army together, or whatever? I mean, it's good to have royalty allies.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, especially in a world rife with magic and mystery like Varema. Amber, what did you think of that read, man?
Oh, it was excellent. I really enjoyed hearing the ending of it and how she got the prince to think without giving away the answers.
No, yeah, right on. And I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed, and I dug it lots. He set up the prompt for the next story. Something I've come to learn is the best ending is a new beginning. You want to say like a prompt, yep, so that you're trapped. You have to want more if it's done right. And what you did there is like this mysterious figure who is so wise and so enigmatic. He's just like, oh, well, you don't know what you're doing. Well, I got a place. I got a place I could put you where you could do the most good.
Right.
And his machinations, we assume, are going to be for the greater good of all, because that's his business. His business is the oversight of royalty, and the installation of monarchy, so that the monarch agent is not unworthy. And I imagine if they fail to pass the test, they can't take power to anything.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's his business. So there's no contradiction there. And it's just and Lim, the idea that Lim ate the berries. It's like I love that little guy. He's great. Yeah. Really a great read, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Valtor is where she lives. In my massive epic fantasy, she's champion of Valtor, which is like a sheriff. And she is free of want. They give her a house, they give her a stipend, an allowance, and nice. She's sort of free to do what she wants, and she protects the village. She's got her dragon with her, and also was committed to protecting the village, even though he's a big dog, like a big,
that's awesome.
What do you call it? So he was right on the money there. And but the next story is called "The Call for a Champion," where she arrives just in time where they're having the champion contest. We got all these contestants, and the ultimate winner will become champion of Valtor. And there's all these giant Viking guys that are, and these scruffy guys, and she's this by comparison, this small woman that comes striding up, and she goes, "Oh, I'd like to take part," and they all laugh at her, but she ultimately wins. Obviously. And,
she's a lioness. She is not to be questioned, not to be denied.
Yeah, she's also much smarter than any of the contestants. That alone would be enough to give her push her into the top 5%.
No.
And
but she's a slayer also. She's got a bunch of talents, like a layer cake, one on top of the other. Really, really great stuff, man. Thank you for that read, Tom. The only reason I won't dwell on it sooner is if we don't get going. You want to read this? How many pages is it? This new concept?
Pages.
Okay, so unpack it for us in brief, and then you can elaborate after you read when we're talking about it. How about that?
Just briefly, I had a dream. I just got up and I started writing notes. I wrote two small pages of notes, and I lay back down. I said, I can't go back to sleep, because it's about half hour before my alarm went off. So I turned my alarm off, went out in the kitchen, I started writing, and this is what I have is pretty much first draft feel for, what I have. Let me give you an idea. Oh, it's called Poseidon Grove.
All right, hot off the presses. Let's go.
All right, Poseidon Grove, a cozy paranormal murder mystery series. Founded in 1885 by Jack, Jason, and Gerald Benson, Poseidon Grove has prospered despite hard times after their phosphate business went bust. This is in southeast Florida. The brothers skipped off to the Mediterranean for a few months. They fall in love with the mythology and history of the area. On their return, they name their new town Poseidon Grove. The town, located along the southeast shore of Port Charlotte, Florida, had grown into a thriving tourism spot by 1911. It is opposite the Charlotte Harbor Preserve, 35 miles south of Punta Gorda, 49 miles north of Fort Miles along Highway 765. By that time, the brothers had used their ingenuity to purchase a massive orange grove located to the west of town. Thirsty visitors and tourists soon found relief with Benson Brothers orange juice. While other orange groves came and went, the Benson Grove stayed healthy in spite of bitter cold winters. Why these groves have survived is a mystery to this day, and none of the Bensons will talk. Rumors of hoodoo priests living at the Benson Groves are unsubstantiated. The juice business kept the town alive as it slowly grew. It became a hotspot for fishing and harbor tours, especially when the Bensons discovered the first pirate gold coins. How many they found is lost to history. Suffice it to say, they discovered enough to bring in the tourists. A hotel was built by the Bensons. This is the Gaspar Hotel, named after the pirate captain who used the area as a base between his pirate raids. Legend has it that he buried a lot of treasure in the harbor area, and this has become a fact as some treasure has been found. On certain nights during a full moon, the ghost of Captain Gaspar will pop up with a clue to one of his hidden treasure chests. The Benson Brothers Juice Company is the largest company in the county, employing thousands of people. They supply the juice for thousands of hotels and motels in Florida and the southern edges of Georgia and Alabama. In 1925, the family made a decision not to use their enormous wealth to influence the running of Poseidon Grove or its vicinity. Their presence is influential enough as a dozen streets are named Benson in the county. The Gaspar Hotel is owned and operated by Alan and Ellen Cramden, the brother and sister who used their inheritance to purchase the hotel and several acres of land that became the Benson Acres community. This gated district is home to a former governor, 3 Major League Baseball players, an astronaut who walked on the moon, and Milton Connors, retired exploitation movie director. This alone has made the Cramdens the second richest family in Poseidon Grove. They have used their wealth to fund many county projects, such as improved roads, a cleaner harbor, and the preservation of the Everglades. They're also sponsor of the annual Burmese python hunt for the Gulf Coast. The annual prize for the longest snake is $25,000. The contest is run for 13 years. Down the street from the Gaspar Hotel is the Winston House, built in 1900. This impressive home was rival to the Gaspar, and it opened its doors as a bed and breakfast in 1944. There is bad blood between the houses, as the Winston House has nicer, larger rooms, and a better breakfast. The bad part of the Winston is the management, one that looks down on their clientele. Guests are treated like family at the Gaspar, and their ratings are overwhelmingly positive. Both hotels are haunted naturally. The ghost of Evangeline Maxwell is often seen at the Gaspar. She died on her honeymoon at the hotel, falling from her balcony on the 4th floor in her wedding dress. At the Winston, old William Banner Winston in full Army uniform can be seen strutting from room to room. The smell of his noxious cigars can be smelled in certain rooms at sunset. In addition to the pythons, there are an enormous number of alligators in the area. Port Charlotte Airport has to hire a group to keep the alligators off the runways at all times of the day and night. A special group of private alligator patrolmen have been hired to patrol the area after one of the Benson children is killed by an alligator. There is a story of the ghost gator, and many people insist that this killed Billy Benson. In spite of no forensic evidence that Billy was killed by a gator, the Gator Patrol is hired and put into action. Alicia Borden, rolls into town one week after losing her job with the Philadelphia Herald. After 22 years, with her pension and a hefty savings account in tow, she purchases a modest home in a new section of town along the harbor, Sand Hill View. The price is very good, and even though she doesn't have an ocean view, as her home is set deeper inland, she escapes the worst of the infrequent flooding portions of the area. After one storm in which she left safer ground, she finds her home has been damaged deliberately by water getting in by a broken window. Traveling with her master is Jake, a plucky silver Abyssinian cat. Highly intuitive, Jake purrs very loud when someone's lying. She will sit down next to the person who exudes the most guilty feelings. Her sense of smell is a major factor in Alicia becoming so successful at her job. When Alicia is close to solving a crime, Jake begins to play with the ghostly cat. It can only be seen out of the corner of your eye and is an albino ragdoll cat. Alicia starts seeing it directly as the series progresses. Florida agrees with Alicia. She begins a Florida blog from a Philadelphia perspective, part history and part travelogue. What a ride Florida is soon a hit. It makes her enough money to buy her weekly groceries within the first month. She develops an interest in the stranger side of Poseidon Grove as she begins to dig into the history. This is something the Bensons do not want her to do. Alicia is suspicious that they are hiding something, and she begins to dig into the public records. She soon meets resistance from the clerks and others at the town hall, but Alan helps her. He is an amateur historian, also interested in the town's past. Alicia falls in love with Alan Cramden, and soon he does the same. They flirt for a long time, and finally come to realize their mutual fondness for the same things. He loves the python hunt, and has come in second place 4 years in a row. With Alicia's help, he is determined to win the contest. The Bensons have 2 spots on the town council and believe in having 1 vote each, as they believe their vote is no more important than anyone else. The members have fought on opposite sides over the decades, with Jennifer Benson believing that her money should be used to sway other members. The rest of the family is up in arms over this bucking of family tradition. Jennifer doesn't care any more about tradition and soon winds up dead. Dead Men's Hill is located north of the Gerald Benson estate, along with a stretch of road that has remained elusive to development. Legend has it that 6 immigrants died of yellow fever in the Benson employ at the time when tensions about the livability of Florida was being questioned out loud. These people were buried in the cypress not far from the road and forgotten about. A strange mound was found there soon after the bodies were buried. Efforts to get rid of the mound have met with bad luck and any number of unusual deaths. Over the years, this mound has become as Dead Men's Hill, and a rusty fence now encloses it to keep the curious away. The Poseidon Festival happens annually when the oranges are being harvested. The 10-day festival has a big carnival, clown competitions, food fest, celebrity baseball game, grove tours, and a python wrestling events. It is also the time when the ghost of Jack Benson walks the streets of Poseidon Grove at midnight. He has been seen on the anniversary of his death, but he was the founder of the Poseidon Festival, and his appearances were the highlight of the festival. His death always resulted in the death of his appearance always results in the death of a festival goer. When a skull washes ashore near Alicia's house, she takes it an interest. It is an old skull, over 125 years old, with gold teeth and a silver patch above one ear from an old surgery. When the skull is put on display at the Gaspar Hotel, poltergeist activity begins to manifest. Personal belongings of guests disappear, and books begin to vanish. Coffee mugs are dropped on people's heads, boiling water comes from the faucets, snakes come out of the toilets. But when a guest is found drained of its blood in a lobby, things get very serious. Poseidon Grove is famous for its skunk ape sightings. Since the early 1900s, this creature has been a resident of the groves, occasionally being seen along Highway 765. A small museum is set up in a shop connected to the Gaspar Hotel, run by Josiah Daniel Adler. He has created a repository of evidence that this is the envy of other Bigfoot museums in the country. A dozen photos adorn the walls of something not quite human, and not anything else but a large humanoid. 42 plaster casts, some 18 inches long, are displayed in a bulletproof cases along the wall. People can listen to audios of some wild creature howling in the orange groves. An enormous selection of books, CDs, and DVDs can be found, as well as tickets to the haunted Cypress Grove tour. Pirate gold has been found in the area and continues to pop up now and then by fishermen, treasure hunters, and even a few beachcombers with their metal detectors. It is estimated that as much as $32 million in gold and jewels is buried in the sands of Port Charlotte Harbor. It is rumored that the Bensons have a stash of gold coins and bury a few once in a while to keep the treasure hunters and tourists coming. Alicia gets the sneaking suspicion that the Cramdens are mermaids soon after she moves in. Neither Cramden ever goes swimming in the Gulf or the hotel pool. They do own a boat, which they take out onto the harbor once a week at midnight. Alicia discovers that the Cramdens are treasure hunters, and they have found a spot where their primitive dredge picks up a coin every few weeks. When she writes about it in her blog, the hotel is robbed, and all of the coins are stolen. The Cramdens are very mad at Alicia until she shows them her blog, and they learn no names are mentioned in the entries. There is just a story about a couple who have been lucky with their treasure hunting in the water. So, the passages in italics are potential stories. I have 9 different titles, but that should be good for now. Anyway. Uh-oh. You're on
Ricky,
mute.
you're muted.
Oh, I'm a goose.
So that all came to me like a dream.
Yeah, I'm so wrapped up in the notion that you had a dream, and then all of a sudden you wake up and this just flies out of you.
It just kept dropping onto the page.
Yeah, and I mean it's first drafty, but it's got so much detail there that I know you're gonna, like, in subsequent drafts, you're gonna stretch it out, and fill in the blanks with the characterization. That romance that you're mentioning it sounds very very adventurous, and just the whole scenery, like the psychic landscape, the notion that it's like a haunted pirate cove, and there's buried treasure, which is probably all blood money, and it's just the psychic, the overall landscape of what you're conveying there. It's like, it's so mysterious, and like I'm looking forward, and getting back to what I was gabbering about when I was muted like a pro. You had a list of you said potential stories, so that dream gave you that outline, and you have a bunch of news flashes already, like, outlined for short stories, right?
Well, it's going to be the cozy murder mystery is a hot topic, right? A hot genre right now on Kindle, and especially ones that are set in Florida, which this definitely is. And so it should be really, really, really interesting to pursue. I mean, and it's not going to ever this cozy murder mystery thing is never going to go away. It's always going to be hot because it sells like phenomenal. And there's a lot of series set in Florida, in condos, in et cetera, et cetera. And my daughter reads them and really likes them. So I thought, why not? Let's see what we could do.
That's fantastic. Thank you for reading that. Amber, what did you think of that read, man?
Well, it seemed to me more like a synopsis than anything else. It's the kind of thing that I would use as a seed to make the actual story.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's about 12 seeds in the description of that could be expanded into novels. They don't have to be long, 150, 160, 180 pages, and we're done. And I had to throw a murder in there, and some, I could do a murder during the python hunt, and I can do a murder during the ghost gator kills somebody else, and someone finds some pirate coins and is killed, and who knows,
No, yeah, there's a lot of potential there, especially the way you write short stories. Thanks for reading that. That was really great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with the concept. Now, those were some great reads. Our subject that we're going to touch on is submissions. Okay. Now, submissions are such where if you're in the writers community, a writers community such as JWC, we eventually want to do that. We want to start off with some kind of submissions at some point. But in a lot of other writers communities, they have submissions. And I just wanted to ask you guys about that. Have you done submissions? And I'll ask you like question, like, was your experience with the submission positive? Where did you submit? How often did you submit? And how did you keep track of your submission? Amber, if you could go first, you know, have you ever submitted a story or something to someplace?
Well, I've sent dozens and dozens of query letters for different stories to different agents. I've queried Death's Nightmare a number of times. I've queried The Shattered Sky a couple of times, and nobody ever even asks to read the whole thing. They just keep saying, "Oh, we don't know how we would market it."
Mm.
So I've submitted a few short stories to contests, and I never win.
So overall, there hasn't been any positive, but you wouldn't say any negative. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not like it's a soft rejection. It's not like they were like, no, not at all,
yeah, it's a soft rejection. It's not like they tell you, "Oh, you suck, quit writing."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I guess how often have you submitted? Like once every couple months, once every couple years? Like how do you do that?
About every 6 months, I make a submission packet out and send to a bunch of different agents, staggered out over the course of a few weeks.
And you have some kind of notes that you take to keep track of those submissions?
Yeah, I have a little notebook that I write in where I sent, which agent I contacted, and when I sent it.
Cool. All right then. Tom,
Yes.
have you ever submitted anything?
Oh yeah. And I should get back to doing it. I do it. Oh boy, I have over 15 stories the past year and a half I've submitted, and I keep track of them in an Excel sheet. The name of the story, the name of the where I sent it, when it was sent, and results. And so far, I'm encouraged by the results. I get a few canned responses. This is not really for us, etc. This is good, but not really for us. But I've gotten some personal ones that said, this is very, very, very interesting, and I wish we could take it, but it's not quite what we're looking for. And they say they wish me a lot of luck. And as far as the Curious Journey of Emily Breck, that I have an active agent search for, which I also do on an Excel sheet, and so that's been very interesting. I've gotten some from agents that have said, he goes, boy, oh boy, this is so interesting. I wish I could take it, which I consider a positive. And
yeah, and no one ever came at you personal with criticism either, right?
No, it's been very, very positive.
Yeah.
And
so how often have you submitted when you submit?
I try to do at least one or two a month. I need to get back to it because I've been just writing up a storm. But and I've been considering putting Emily on Kindle, so that would take out the agent part of that. So there is a contest, the Writers of the Future contest, which is very, very interesting. I submit to them every year because they do some offbeat stuff, which is kind of what I write. And but I get all sorts of emails about writing contests for the month, submissions for the month without an agent, paying markets. So I peruse through them, and there's a lot of good markets out there. And
right on.
Grab up something. So I wanted really quick, write about, Robert Heinlein is one of the most successful science fiction writers of all time. He had 5 rules for writing as far as submitting. He's basically, I'll be really quick. Number 1, you must write. Number 2, you must finish what you write. Number 3, you must refrain from rewriting, except to editorial order. 4, you must put it on the market. 5, you must keep it on the market until it is sold. And that was his success formula. And he never, he said rejections spurred him on. And he never took them seriously. And, his thing was, he didn't like it. Bob didn't like it over here, but George right over here might like it. So I'll send it to George.
And, I mean, and he is wise from experience, because you don't let rejection trouble you. You go on undaunted. You keep reaching and reaching until you get it. And every time you do something, you're learning. Always let the goals feed the dream.
Right.
I'm totally about it. I see the wisdom of it. Now, go ahead, Tom. Yeah,
the key
something
is
else.
To develop a thick skin.
Yeah.
And even if they write back to you and say, this is the worst thing I've ever read, just say, thank you very much, and you move on. You gotta keep on plugging, right?
Yeah. So, I think that's good. Boy, the hour always goes by quick with this show, man. I really love it. I want to thank all the listeners for listening. We're going to do our plugs. So we'll start with Amber Danson. Amber, what are you plugging today?
Well, I figured out how to do pre-orders on Kindle, and now Death's Gamble is available for pre-order. That's the sequel to Death's Nightmare.
Very good.
All right. Death's Gamble, the sequel to Death's Nightmare. It's up for pre-order. And I guess that's Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon. It'll be live on October 1st.
October 1st, folks. Amber Danson. Go check it out. Death's Gamble. You heard her read. You heard what she's got. Tom, what are you plugging?
I have 2 collections on Amazon. Dwellers in the Shadows, and the second one is It Still Out There?
Oh yeah, that's right. I bought those, Tom.
Very nice. Did you have the hardcover or your ebook?
I bought the paperback, and it's really they look really great, man. I'm looking forward to reading them. Tom Tiernan, check his stuff out, Amazon.com. And I am Richard Andrew Olkus. They call me Ricky. I have a book out called Babbletron, After the Fire. It's published through JWC. Babbletron is a dystopian cyberpunk novel with all sorts of crazy things, violence, super intelligent machines, post-apocalyptic landscape, genetic biotechnology running amok. Check it out. Very, very, very good. Babbletron, After the Fire, Amazon.com. And thank you all thank you, Tom. Thank you, Amber, for contributing to the show. It was fun. It was great. And thank you all of our audience. Please go check out our YouTube, JWC YouTube. Like and subscribe, please. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Leave your suggestions for submissions, what you'd like to see JWC open up for submissions, because I'm very, very much looking forward to that. And go to joeswritersclub.com and then sign up for our forums, joeswriters.club. Become a member and join JWC's writers community, where we have our meetings on Zoom. You can sign up at joeswriters.club. It's Tuesdays, Eastern Time, 7 to 9. It's a great thing. We read, we go over stuff, go over projects. It's real fun, and the atmosphere is creative and inspirational. Thanks for listening. We're gonna take off.
Good
See
night,
you
everybody.
all. See you next time.